Okay, I need to explain the literature log, and please pay attention. This top part, well, first I'm going to go ahead and download it. Okay, so this section right here at the top is actually what you do at the end. Okay, they just put it up there. It's like a reflection on how you did reading these pages. And it's pretty simple. It's very easy. I put an example of one of these semi filled out in the submodule. I added that like last night, so you could kind of see an example of it. But I'm going to talk about it right now. But this is the end part. And the first question is the level of grit, level of effort that you put in, with 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. I just want you to be honest. Did you try hard on this literature log, on the reading? So what was your effort level? And help from others. Did you receive any help from others? Did you talk about it with another student and ask them, did you did you receive any help from others? Sometimes the answer will be no. Sometimes yes, you discussed it. That's fine. And these are the page numbers, again, as a reminder. The good reader strategies used. Now you're going to finish watching the video and learning the good reader strategies, like before reading strategies and the during reading strategies. Just list 1 or 2 that you might have used. For example, I set a purpose. That would be a good reader strategy. I set a purpose. Or I stopped after every section and I monitored my comprehension. Okay, that's a good reader strategy. Time it took me to complete. So you kind of, guesstimate, or you may be doing 20 minutes a day, like I said, but if you do 20 minutes a day, it might take you 80 minutes total to read pages 3 through 72. It might have taken you an hour. It might have taken you, I don't know. You can also put it in days if you want to. That's okay. It took me 4 days to do this. All right. And then the confidence in my understanding of the text. Did you understand pages 3 through 72? 1 being, no, I'm clueless. And 5 being, I absolutely understand. Okay? So that you do when? Type that in chat. When do you do this section? Type it in. I want to see more than 2 people respond to me. Okay? So type it in. Thank you. I want to make sure you're clear. Okay. Keep them coming. Thank you. Now, the before reading part is what it says before reading. Now, you're going to go through, if you haven't yet, what you do before you read. Now, luckily, here at the beginning, I've got a video on that, and you're going to follow me in that video. You're going to have your book in hand, and you are going to go through the before reading with me, all right, in the novel. And then I actually get into the during reading part too, so I get you started. But before you read, set a purpose. Now take your word and either highlight or underline which one of these purposes that you are setting for yourself to read. Is it to learn course material? Probably not. Is it to predict test questions? Probably not. I'm just saying, but whatever your purpose is for this assignment, is it to practice new reading strategies? Yes, I would say most of you would put that this time anyway. You can do more than one purpose. So, but just make sure you highlight it or underline it. Oh, and by the way, a lot of you are doing your, like I've noticed in scavenger hunt, you did it in different color, like different, which makes it easier for me. Thank you for doing that. So when you start typing in these answers, if you could either make it really dark, bold, where it stands out, or a different color. Then before reading, you also need to get yourself prepared. So which during reading strategy are you planning on using? Is it stopping and monitoring your comprehension? Or is it looking up, vocabulary words? So you just need to write one that you're really going to focus on. Maybe it's one that you don't do very often. And you're like, you know what, I need to really practice this strategy. So I'm going to put it down and I'm going to focus on that strategy while I'm reading. So this is the before reading part. Not hard. It's not difficult. Students do perfectly well on this part. The during reading is the monitoring comprehension. Okay, now we're into the novel. Now we're reading. You're going to have so many questions that come up to your mind as you read. You're going to type these in as you're reading. So questions you had while reading. And it just says to ask 5. So from pages 3 through 72, ask at least 5 questions should come up to your mind, but don't forget the page number. If you don't include a page number, that's a point off. If you don't include 5 questions, you're going to not get all your points. In order to get all your points, every blank needs to be filled in. So I have a question already. I mean, it's like, why is it called a, glass castle? And that's just from the title. And of course, no, I don't like this. I want to change that font color. Yeah, I want to make it something else. Okay. And on this one, I'm going to put cover of the book. I should make it to where all my font is a different color here, so I don't have to keep doing that. But you get the point. You might have a question on page 3. What party is she going to? Just whatever questions come to mind, write them in and put the page number. All right. Get all your points there, okay? Vocabulary. As you're reading this section, remember it only goes to page 72, type in 5 vocabulary words that you want to look up or that you came across that you didn't know what it meant. Okay? It's like, what is that word? I came across that. Someone go find me a synonym and I'm going to type it in here. What was it? What words did you have? Now, if you don't put in the synonym for it, then you're going to lose points. And by the way, let's say you knew what every single word was. And you say, I'm leaving it blank because I know every one of those words. I don't have any problem. Well, if you want points, pick 5 words, okay, and put in a synonym, okay, even if you knew it. I just want to give you all your points. Don't leave any points left, for you to not pick up. The next part, I will say that this is the not hardest for students, but the one that does require some thinking to happen. And these are the connections. Now, you've got to go through the reading strategies to really get this. That's why I say you got to do that first. But the text to self connections, you have 2 to make. Text to text connections, you have 2 to make. And text to world connections, you have 2 to make. Not 1, but 2 for each section. How many? Type it in chat so I know you're awake with me. How many for each of these sections? Yes, 2. All right. Thank you. I'm going to be taking attendance from chat today. I can tell you that much. All right. So text to self, you need both parts. What in the text reminded you of something to you? What in the text reminded you something about yourself when you were young or something you did? It doesn't have to be exactly when she is cooking at the stove. I can remember getting up and on a stool because I was always short and making a sandwich. That something in the text reminded me of something when I was young. So I'm going to type that in here and I'm going to put the page number of where this happened in the text, where it reminded me of something I did or something I saw or something similar. Make 2 of those. Those are the easiest for students. Text-to-text connection is something you read in the text reminded you of something you read in another book, or you read in another poem, or you saw on a movie, or you saw in a film, or you heard on a podcast, or you saw on TikTok, or you saw, so this is something in the text that didn't happen to you, but you saw it, or you read it in another story. Okay? So there's 2 that you need to fill out there. And again, where it happened in the story that reminded you, you got to put the page number. That's why I say have this lit log open or write it in your notebook while you're reading, because if you're reading something on page 20 and your log is not in front of you, you're going to forget what page number. So make sure you're putting it in your notes or type it in. So this is text to text, but text doesn't just mean another book. It can obviously mean another book or an article or a poem, but it can also mean something you saw in the media, like a form of media like movie or film, or something you heard, YouTube even. All right, then text to world. This is something that you read in the text, again, the novel, that reminded of you something out there in the world today. As her mom was going through the dumpster, it reminded me when I was going to work and I saw the man down on here on Sutherland going through the trash. Okay, I just made a text to world connection. Do not be general. Be specific. Don't just say, well, they're homeless and there's poverty in the world. That's too general. You need a more specific connection. Now, if you cannot think, in that same example I gave you, if you cannot think of something in the world, then go ahead and go online and look up, Google something, a news article, something from the news media, a specific story, and then include the link to where I can follow it. This one, out of the 3, overall, students like the least. I'm just being honest, because they have to think big. You got to think about the world connection or go find a link. If you are pulling this out from out there, you've Googled it, and you've got to include the link to the website. Copy and paste that URL there so that I can hit it and follow it. Again, page numbers over here. Don't forget your page numbers, where this happened in the text that reminded you of something going on in the world. I'd say you can probably make some connections to what's going on right now with what happened with Hurricane Ida and the flooding, and maybe what some of the people on the streets. I'm just saying you might be able to, with this book, make that connection. So think about the big world and what's going on. It can also be history too, what happened in the past, as long as you can make that clear connection, not generalities. Do not make too general, poverty in the world. That's not going to get you any points. Beautiful writing. Surprisingly, most students like this one. What is your favorite quote from this section? Explain why. Don't just put in the quote, but tell me why you chose that quote and put the page number of the quote. Okay? So type in chat. You got to put your quote in there, and what? What else you got to do to get your points? You got to explain it, right? You got to tell why. Yeah. So why did you choose that quote? All right. Then this is the after reading section. Now I know at the top I said this is after reading. Well, this is after reading. Okay. So this is after reading. So in reflecting on what you know about setting. Now, I included a video on setting, so make sure you watch that video. Talks about the setting and how that affects characters and so forth. I included it's not my video, it's just a quick video, short video on setting from YouTube. But so in reflecting on what you know about setting, that's the time period or where it takes place. Choose a passage that you think really highlights the setting of this pages 3 through 72. What is one setting? Now, I know they keep moving around. I'm not saying do all those different settings, but just choose one setting. It could be about, the opening setting in New York City and all that. But anyway, you choose one setting. Don't choose them all because the setting keeps changing. So choose one that you think is really, once you read the novel, you'll understand. But it's, remember, setting is where the story's taking place, the location, and any details or descriptions you want to add about. So write a summary of that setting. So if I'm choosing page 3 setting, which will be in the video, I don't want to get into the novel too much. I don't want to go jump ahead of you. But if I'm choosing that, I would just summarize where this is taking place. Oh, it's happening in New York City. There's steam coming up from the manholes. There's taxis and traffic. And, I might talk a little bit about that setting, and I would want to put the page number 3. Don't skip, don't leave it blank. But there's another section here. So 9 is big. There's a lot in 9. Then there's another question. How would you describe the mood created by the setting? So how's the atmosphere? How's the mood? And what are some specific words in that passage that you indicate the mood of the setting and aid your visualizations? I just said a minute ago, like steam coming up from the manholes. That would be a good one. That's a good visualization. But so how do you think the setting is influencing the lives of the family, especially Jeanette? Now, it doesn't always have to be Jeanette specifically, but that she's the main, she's the author. It's her memoir. It's her story. But she talks a lot about the family. And then go on Google Images or, choose a picture. Don't draw one. I'm not asking you to draw a picture. Just insert a picture from the internet that relates to your chosen passage from above. Like I would type in that mood setting. I just type that in Google search and click images, and a bunch of images would pop up, and I would kind of pick the one, oh yeah, that kind of describes the mood, the setting I'm talking about. Students like that one. Now, if you're having trouble, then get help learning how to insert a picture. I can show you. I do this stuff all the time, so I know how to do this. Or reach out to a friend or another student or a peer, one of the study buddies, or help desk. But most people can figure this one out pretty good. And then there's question 10. How did you accomplish your purpose for reading? So go back up here. Remember your purpose for reading? Maybe it was practice new reading strategies. How did you accomplish that? Oh, well, I stopped after every paragraph, every section or every page, and I asked myself, do I understand what I'm reading? So just put me in a sentence. I'm not, please, on number 9 too, I'm not asking for huge paragraphs. Just a couple sentences will do. And then number 11, emotional reaction to the text. You cannot read this story and not have some emotions. I just don't see how you can't. If you don't have any emotions there at all, then maybe you should talk to me or talk to somebody, because I think it's going to pull some emotions out of you. But how did you feel when reading this section? You could say, I felt angry, and then say why you felt angry, or I felt sad, and say why you felt sad. So, all those emojis on your texts, right? And you're always shooting your friends emojis, you know, surprised, shocked, you know, laughing hard, you know, LOL, right? So just think of an emotion that you went through, and this really for the entire section though, and why you felt that. Just one question there, and then one question here. How do you think the characters felt? And we're talking about Jeanette or any of the characters, but overall, how do you think they felt in this section? And why? So we're pulling out emotions here. This is an emotional reaction to the text section. I'm going to close this. Don't forget to save that to your computer, by the way. You don't want to type in, you know, a few things on Friday, and then, you know, of course, you're not finished, and then you come back to it on Sunday or Monday, and you try to type in more, and you didn't save it, and you lost all the stuff you put in there. So that's happened to students more than once. Let me show you my example. So I included a little example for you. I didn't include everything, but you can kind of see one that's semi-filled out. I kind of quit filling it out down here. Like the text-to-text could be a TV show too. Some students, for some reason, are saying the character Rex reminds them of the dad in the show Shameless, because they both, and then they say why. Oh yeah, you got to make sure you tell why. All right, you know, why does that remind you of Rex? So make sure you do that. Make sure you do two. If you do on Text to World, if it's something that you see out there in the world, that's obviously not a website needed. If you go do a Google search, you need to include a website for your points. Okay, and don't forget the page numbers. All right. And I didn't really fill out any of this, but you can look at that example on your own time. I just kind of put it on there so you can get an idea of what it looks like. Especially with this first one, if you got questions, I think it's kind of self-explanatory, but I'm always here to answer your questions. I want to make sure you understand how to do the first one. Oh, let me point one other thing out. I just thought about it. It doesn't matter which one I point out. Every single literature log, this is literature log 1, it'll have different pages, is the same. They're all the same except for that question number 9. It changes. So this time it's on setting. Next time it'll be on something different, you know, a different literary device. But this time it's on setting. And the rest of all the other questions remain the same. So if you get down literature log 1, you know, the rest will be easier except for number 9. It will change.